Well, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for this coffee session. I am Dennis Farrell, and I'm joined by my colleague, Murray Berger. Murray, how are you this afternoon?
Well, thank you.
Have you got your
coffee? Nice to chat.
Yeah, have you got your coffee with you?
I've got my coffee. Thank you.
Good stuff. Yeah, and I've got mine. And so if you don't have your coffee yet, just push the pause button and go get your coffee done. And when you come back, we'll be here and we will continue with the discussion. What we'd like to share with you today is to talk a bit about our people management or HR model, which we've developed over the past few years, and many of our clients are implementing this and finding it very, very useful. So let's get into it and let's just talk through the model. Well, as you can see there, it's also, we refer to a people management model, and it's a people value chain or a life cycle within the HR environment or people management, and we'll share with you a little bit later. Okay, here's the model. So, Murray, what can you tell us about models and Professor Box?
Yeah, that's an interesting story, Dennis. Professor Box was quoted by Jim Collins, who wrote a book, How the Mighty Fall. And Professor Box said, all models are wrong, but some are useful. And we believe this one is useful, not that we can't sort of improve on it, and you're welcome if you want to contribute.
Thank you, Murray. So let's kick off with the model. First of all, there's compliance. There's always compliance that we need to be aware of and look at. And within the HR field, there is around about 6 legislations. And if you want to cover those legislations, we've estimated there needs to be about 52 policies to support those 6 legislations within any business. Whether you're the smallest or the largest, you should have those. We've also got processes, procedures, statutory reporting that we have to do, and then of course there is the risk management within the organization. So let's just make it practical to where we are now with the COVID-19. As an example, a lot of us are working remotely, as Murray and I are doing as well. And the question to ask is, do we have a mobile working policy or remote working policy which guides our team, our employees, in terms of what they require to go to work remotely, but very importantly, how is the risks in terms of cyber risks mitigated for us as organizations? So that is very important. Then we kick off looking at the strategy and the plan, and Murray, what can we say about that?
Dennis, when in HR or people management, when we refer to our strategy and plan, we always need to make sure that it is 100% aligned with the organization's strategy and plans. Because we need to, from a people management point of view, help the organization to execute its strategy. So we are also accountable for the execution of organization strategy, and by translating that to a people management strategy, we will do it.
Thank you, Murray. That then leads us effectively into the architecture or the building blocks of our organization. In this case, specifically, if we start looking within the people management side, so we need to understand on what systems, what platforms are we working, what kind of information management systems we have, whether it's the normal Microsoft or whether it's Oracle or SAP or any big application. We need to understand those applications from a user perspective very well. Why is that important? Because when we get to specifically in terms of business processes, so we need to have the policies we refer to. We have got the business processes. I'll refer to them in a short while. Standard operating procedures, we come from the processes. And then we get to the organizational design and role profiles. So back to the processes, is that the defined processes which we have per discipline would give us the breakdown to specifically how organization needs to look like, or our structure as it's commonly called. And then, of course, we get the role profiles. So the role profiles are directly defined from your business process analysis, which you do. And that becomes the foundation for all our practices within HR. And so, Murray, if we look at that, where do we start from here?
Good, Dennis. The next thing that we need to do is to look at the planning around your people. And again, taking it back to the strategy, we recently did a short survey amongst medium-sized, mainly medium-sized and small companies. More than 300 took part in this survey. And what we did find was that almost half of those companies are thinking of downsizing, in other words, getting rid of people. And 17% of those companies said that they're going to get rid of between 50 and 75% of their people, which is quite a lot. Now, that's on the one side, but then we also found that there are companies that are thinking of merging or expanding, looking at other avenues. And all of this has an impact on the people that you're going to have in your organization. And your people planning should take that into consideration and then properly plan, saying how many of what caliber at what level should we have in this organization for a period coming, let's say, for the next year. So this is the beginning, to have a proper people plan.
Thank you.
The next thing that then follows on is to make sure that the company get the right people according to that people planning. So people sourcing and selection is important. What's really important here is to make sure that your processes and practices are of such that you recruit only the best. You can't afford it to appoint people that's not up to scratch. They're going to cost you. We often refer to those as the C players. So once you've got the person into the organization, the next logical thing to do is to make sure that that person understands exactly where he or she fits into the organization and what he or she needs to do. And that we do via performance management. This is something that a lot of companies struggle with. Most companies have performance management systems in place, but it doesn't work as it should. But that's a story for another day. Once the person now knows what's expected of him or her, they've got a quality performance contract or plan that is linked and on sort of via the department where they work into the organization strategy. We need to reward people. So many companies say that they want to reward for performance, but that becomes difficult if you don't have a properly functioning performance management system. The reward management focuses mainly on making sure that the desired or required behavior, the behavior that will ensure that the organization strategy is executed, gets rewarded. And again, many companies fail in getting that right. But this is a wonderful tool or practice that you've got to make sure that the people actually do what's important for the organization. After that, we're looking at employment relations. And employment relations, some people refer to it as employee relations, but it's actually employment because they've got two parties in this, the employee and the organization. And they would equally play an important role. So that's why we refer to this employment relations. Yes, there are things like are involved in this, but that's not the main thing. The main thing is really to make sure that we've got people that are engaged in the organization and that we've got sound and solid and meaningful relationships in the organization, which will result in employees being engaged. And then lastly, on those practices, we've got people development. And there are many different things that people do in organizations. Most organizations has very specific things for that organization, technical skills for argument, and that they train the people on or coach them around those things. But then you also acquire a lot of things from external service providers. For instance, you might need a leadership development program, which we will strongly recommend because that helps the whole organization talk the one language. And we believe that managers, supervisors, all leaders in organizations more or less know what they have to do and why they have to do it. But sometimes it becomes difficult with the house side of doing things. That is now dealing with people and working with people effectively, creating that environment in which people can and want to perform. So that's why we would strongly recommend such a program if you don't have one.
Very sorry, can I just on that as well, I think maybe just 2 comments. Importantly is that if you look at people planning, it's not a once-off activity, it's a continuous activity as your environment changes. Typically your reference to the survey we did, and that's around the impact of the COVID virus specifically. So that requires new planning. And then just on the people development side, that is also where we would address under leadership topics such as emotional intelligence. Am I right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's right. Then the last part of this life cycle is when the employee exits the organization. And what we also often come across is where smaller organizations, also big ones, lose highly talented people really contributing at the high level. But because of the lack of opportunity currently in that organization, the person finds a better place to develop him or herself, and that's fine. I think what's important though is then to keep track of that individual, maybe have a cup of coffee if that's possible from time to time, and in the end there might again be an opportunity in your organization where you can recruit the person back into the organization. So the main thing here is to have the alumni sort of going and keep up the relationships with that person. So if this process is now done well, then you also doing your talent management as it should be done. It's strange, sometimes we get to organizations, they say, please help us with the talent management program, and then we ask them, do you recruit? Yeah, we recruit. Do you have performance? Yeah, we do. Do you have reward management? Yeah, and all those sort of things. But if you do all these people, process or practices, as we refer to them, well, you should also have a great talent management approach. So that's the thing. And then lastly, on this one, we briefly referred to employee engagement. That's another sort of a byproduct of doing these things well. And it's a leadership thing. Remember, our managers and supervisors, middle, senior management, everybody is accountable for people management. And they need to do these things well to ensure that there's an environment in which people can and want to perform. A study that was also done by the Corporate Leadership Council found that 70% of employees that leave organizations leave not because of pay or any other thing, but because of their leaders that they report to.
Yeah. Thank you, Murray. What we just like to end off on the model here is that you can see we've got a term called change enablement. And a lot of organizations or people refer to change management. We say it's enablement because leaders enable change. Specifically, if we see where we are now with the COVID-19 virus, how things are changing in the economic world and the business world, is that as leaders, we need to enable change. Now, most, if not all of these practices which Murray discussed here and we chatted about, also forms part of the change enablement process, of which, I really believe the most important one is really communication, and that would also be addressed within our leadership component. Murray, anything else on the model?
No, Dennis, not specifically on the model. I think as we discussed, we will probably in future take each one of these components and drill in a little bit deeper into those. But in the meantime, if somebody has a specific question or a comment that you want to make, please contact us. I think in the end, our email addresses and telephone numbers are there. So please feel free to contribute or ask your questions if you'd like to. So we will come back to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Murray, and thank you all for spending this time with us. You can see our website below there. You're welcome to just go onto the website, see all the services, and you can contact us via the website as well. And as Murray indicated, we'll keep you informed with our next coffee session. And we do trust that you keep well and keep safe. And we're looking forward to seeing you soon.